Good morning and welcome to Old Man Energy. I'm your host, Flint Anderson. Thank you for joining me today. We are following up on last week's episode about the things that we really control and implementing them. And I want to talk about my journey on implementing these things and some stuff that I've come across. Hopefully, it'll help you guys out. We tend to think that life is like a movie. There's the highlight reel is when you get shit done, and it only takes 5 or 10 minutes where you're exercising, you're fixing your problems, you're getting organized, and poof, you pop out the other end and everything looks great. That's not reality. That's not how things really work. And that's not what it takes to get ahead. That portion, that highlight reel portion of your life is boring. That's the grind. That's where you're doing repetitive stuff. That's where you're working tired. That's where you're doing what you need to do. It's not fair. It sucks. Sometimes we have to start over and over again. And sometimes we can't even see the end result while we're in the middle of doing that. I've experienced all of these here recently, and that can wear on you and tax on you mentally. So I'm hoping that some of the explanations I'm going to give you here from my personal experience and from the experience of mentors and folks like that helps you relate to what you're going through, because your life is not a highlight reel. Your life is not an Instagram post. Your life is not a TikTok video. Your life is just simply what you do every day. It's the sum of all the small actions that you take every single day. If you go back and listen to the episode on control and the 5 things that we really control, that should give you some sense of peace and some sense of urgency at the same time, meaning you can eliminate a lot of things that you've been worried about because you don't actually control them, and help you focus on the things that you do control. Well, when you start implementing those things that you do control, your life begins to change, but then you start to see more chaos and more things that you've been ignoring long term. So I want to talk about that as well. Remember this, we talk about peace, you hear people talk about meditation, talk about manifestation, all these different things. Here's what manifestation and meditation really is. Meditation is the ability to sit alone with your thoughts with no external stimulation for any amount of time. It'd be amazing how healing this is. And some people want to call prayer meditation. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not exactly the same thing, because prayer is typically a directed, focused conversation that you're having with your God, your deity, whatever you believe. That's what prayer typically is. Meditation is slightly different. Meditation is not opening yourself up to the power of the universe. It could be if that's what you believe. But meditation, more simply, is just allowing yourself to see all of the thoughts that are going through your head and decide which ones you want to pay attention to. That's it. There's no mysticism. There's no mystical input. There's nothing. You simply sit alone with your thoughts with no stimulation, no music, no phone, no computers, no nothing. Start off. Try it for 2 to 5 minutes. It's harder than you think, but it'll give you some clarity, and you'll start getting some control over those thoughts, so those intrusive thoughts don't slap you upside the head like they used to, or they don't take control like they used to. So that's what meditation really is. Now, let's talk about something else that I used to really believe was just guru bullshit. And that is manifestation. Well, you have to think, and then if you think about something hard enough, you actually get it, and all those different things, all the different ways that it's been written. I've read all the books. I understand what people believe about manifestation. Well, the thing is there's a couple of different things that manifestation actually is. First of all, in its simplest, rawest form, manifestation is that bridge between decision and action. Manifestation is bringing thought into physical reality. That's the definition of the word. But whenever you think about something, you pay attention to something, which is where your meditation is. And then you start making some decisions about what you're going to focus on. And then you start making some choices based on those decisions. All of that's mental. All of that's in your head. But once you start taking action on those choices, you've now taken that energy, which is thought, converted it into physical energy, and started manifesting those thoughts in the real world as physical actions, objects, whatever it happens to be. That's manifestation. Now, something else very critical happens here, and we've all done this. We've all made a decision, started acting on it, and then all of a sudden things just started happening that appeared completely random, but still supported what we were doing and supported our decision. What this does is those other opportunities and actions, most likely, can't say for sure because I'm not living your life, were always there. But until you started looking for them, until you started focusing your attention on what you wanted to happen, you couldn't see them because your brain is an excellent filter in filtering things out. But you tell it to start looking for things, and then you reinforce the fact that you're doing A by taking action on it. Now your brain starts looking for every opportunity to make that happen even faster in reality. So when you talk about manifestation and creating things in the real world, those two things come together, and it's an exponential return on your effort whenever you're that focused on something. Because not only does your brain start bringing into alignment all the experiences around you, but you're able to act upon them even faster. So it's actually an exponential growth rate. Take that, remember that. And I want you, the reason I opened with that on this episode about disorder, choices, failure, identity drift, is because I want you to take away that positive and realize that those are the two keys to overcoming what we do to ourselves mentally when things are not going our way. And I'm the worst about this. Guys, especially, will internalize problems. We won't talk about them. And we feel like a failure because a lot of us define, and I'm not saying that this is healthy. I'm not saying that this should be normal. I'm just talking about my experience and seeing what happens in the real world. And what happens with me is a lot of us define ourselves and our self-worth based on our ability to provide, to create, and to pursue our dreams and goals in an effective manner. And when we don't feel like we're doing that, our life starts to fall apart. And did an episode of Life by the Horns last week and talked a lot about this on mental health. And if you haven't checked that episode out, I encourage you to go look at it. It's really good conversation between Dustin and I. And I think it's going to help a lot of men just come to terms with their reality. But it tends to mess with us. Our attempts at success met with what we perceive as failure messes with us. Now, we can all say failure is a learning experience and you're not really a failure unless you quit. I tell myself that as well. I tell my children that because it's true, but it doesn't help in the moment. It doesn't help right then when you need things to work. And sometimes you may be in a desperate situation where you have to have things work. But here's the truth, and here's what really is going on in the background, is you're not falling apart all at once. There were 1,000 small decisions that led to whatever it is that you're dealing with right now. So you can say death by 1,000 cuts or death by 1,000 small decisions. You're not falling apart because of one big decision. You're falling apart because of 1,000 little decisions you make or didn't make on the way there. It's not the big mistakes that are wrecking your life. It's the ones you tell yourself don't matter, so you don't address them. Those are the ones that are stealing your joy. Those are the ones that are stealing your peace and they're stealing your dream. My desk, oh God, my desk gets cluttered. I fought with this for years. You can go through my Facebook and I clean it up and I feel amazing. It gets mail, it gets notes, it gets random shit. I run in the office, I throw stuff down, I deal with it. I don't need this anymore. And then my office starts to do the same thing and it's a mess in there and then it's cluttered everywhere. It's ridiculous. Storage, same thing. My truck, same thing, same pattern. And every time I notice it, I know what's coming next because I'm starting to slip. I'm starting to lose control. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's not to say that you can't learn and change your behaviors. If you've always been this person that's messy or cluttered or what have you, and you need to take some sort of control, it can still be messy and cluttered and you can be taking small steps towards it. That action, that simple action is enough to start the snowball rolling in the direction that you need it to go. Point of this is that we tell ourselves these lies, oh, it's just a little thing. It's no big deal. I'll get to it later. Des will be the first one to tell you, I am the king of putting shit off. And I work on this daily, and I think I'm doing a really good job about this now. But little stuff that's easy, oh, I'll get to that later. I'll do it later. I'll take care of it later. So many things that then when I do finally start doing them, I knock them out fairly quickly because it's never a skill issue. It's not even generally a time issue. I couldn't even tell you what it is, why I put some stuff off. It's like some weird passive aggressive control issue that I don't really want to explore because I don't really care that much. I want that particular part of my personality to go away. I want to start handling things right as they need to be done and move forward from there. But the lie of, oh, it's just a little thing, it's not a big deal, this can balloon and snowball into something that takes away your peace, your passion, and your joy. There's an idea I came across called the broken windows theory. The simplified version of this theory, and you can go look it up if you want, is when disorder is visible, it signals that nobody's in control. And then things start to degrade towards entropy even faster because of those small things at first. And we all know this. We do this with a diet all the time. We're very strict with our diet at first because, we all want to be skinny in the morning. And then as the day progresses, as the weeks progress, well, that one cookie won't really hurt. And you know what? That one cookie really won't hurt. But what hurts with that is the fact that you now no longer have this rigid control. So now there's a crack. Well, next time it's 2 cookies. Well, then it's the glass of wine. And then it's this. And then you're right back to where you were. You don't know how you got there because you didn't decide, oh, well, screw my diet. I don't want to be skinny anymore. And I'm using skinny facetiously. Should be saying healthy, but it doesn't stick the same. But you didn't get there because you decided not to do your diet. You got there because you decided to have a cookie and not worry about it. So the internet exaggerates this particular theory a lot because the internet exaggerates everything. One cookie doesn't destroy your life. A dirty cup doesn't destroy your life. A messy desk won't destroy your life. It's not really the point. The point is what it tells you. Are you compromising your principles because you're being lazy or because you just don't care? And what else are you not paying attention to? Or what else are you letting slip and slide? A messy, cluttered environment, whatever it is, and this can be mental environment, physical environment, whatever, it doesn't control your behavior. You still act in the way that you choose to act every time, but it does control your attention. And some of you can see my old office. I'm a pop culture junkie. I loved having that thing decorated. I liked having a TV on the wall, music in the office, just so whatever mood I happened to be in, I could either listen, watch, or look at what I liked. But I had the ability in the midst of all that clutter to organize it and to not pay attention to it when I needed. And my office was arranged in such a way that I could eliminate all of that. I didn't have to look at any of it while I was working. So this is how I chose to deal with that. And, when in that environment, my office was much cleaner. I stayed on top of it a lot better than I do in an environment that's built and structured from chaos. Because when there's a lot of chaos, that's what controls your attention. Oh my goodness. What am I do here? What am I going to do here? Oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. We sometimes call this ADHD, which is not fair to those people that actually deal with ADHD. Same thing with some people that are just very hyper vigilant about things, call themselves OCD. Not really OCD. It's not fair to the people that get diagnosed with those conditions, which are sometimes terribly debilitating. But clutter drives some people nuts. Clutter actually drives all of us nuts. Some of us are better at ignoring it than others. It splits our attention. We can't focus on things as much as we need to, and therefore we make weaker choices. Because if you remember in that matrix, the attention bubble is the foundation upon which all of our dreams and reality are built. So when we start splitting our attention, we start making weaker choices. When we start making weaker choices, we start having inconsistent actions. Now, our actions may be consistent with our choices, but if you're not making great choices in the first place, the actions don't really matter because they appear inconsistent. You're bouncing all over the place. And when you're making inconsistent actions and you finally start realizing it because you're not where you want to be and you're not progressing in the way that you thought you would, it starts to feel broken inside and it starts to impact our identity. And when you feel broken inside, when you feel like you're not doing what you need to do, even though you're working harder than you ever have, it starts with that cognitive dissonance and it begins to be even more difficult to see where you need to be in life. Remember this, you're not reacting to the mess you've made around you or of your life. You're training yourself by it. This is a much more positive outlook on it. Because if you're reacting to the chaos that you've created in your life, you have no control to it. You're just sitting there putting fires out. But if you realize that you're being trained by the environment that you've created, you now have some semblance of control over that. You also realize that you don't have to fix all of it at once. Throw one piece of mail away if it's bugging you. Clean up one thing. Go wash your dishes. It doesn't matter what it is. For me, when my desk is clean, I execute better because I have only to focus on what's right in front of me. When it's cluttered, I hesitate, I miss things, I push things away. Physically, I will miss things. There may be a piece of mail there that I needed to, I forgot about because it got buried under 10 other things. And mentally, I start stacking unfinished decisions, one on top of another. I'll get to that later. I'll get to that later. And it becomes that open-ended loop, if you will, becomes my reality. And this is the way I am. It's what I work on. It's what I'm struggling with. And I'm working through a solution to this permanently, triggers that will allow me to solve this problem moving forward. I've done it even as long as a year or two. And then slowly, one thing at a time, ding, ding, ding. And it's normally in times of great upheaval, move into a new office, move into a new house, what have you. that's where those triggers go away. Because sometimes we alter things long term, and sometimes the reason they look altered long term is because we've built an environment that allows us to control them long term. And I just did a bad job of resetting those triggers in the new environment. The same thing happens with my truck. The same thing happens with my office, the same with storage, same with our house, everything. Des calls me a pack rat because of this. And then when I go through and clean stuff out, I don't even know why I kept half of it in the first place. But remember, this is not about being neat. This is about what I'm allowing in my immediate environment around me that could be either enhancing or distracting my attention towards my goals and my dreams and what I actually need. And another example of this, I had a boss years ago, back when I had a corporate job, high end producing sales rep, just really, really intelligent guy, very aggressive. He taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about direct sales, just a lot of stuff in general. Here's one thing that he said just as an offhanded remark, and I really took it to heart, is he would talk about when he felt out of control, he didn't spiral, he didn't let it take control of him. He organized his closet. Now, I've talked about this with the desk and everything else because that's one of my demon points, so to speak. But why did he talk about organizing his closet? And I asked him that one time. So why does that matter? He said, it's because something that I completely control, and it's something that often needs some attention. It wasn't cleaning the closet that was the important thing. It wasn't organizing the closet that was the important thing. It was reclaiming control. It was one thing he could do to stop the chaos, take control of his mind while he organized that, and then that snowballed and applied to every other area of his life. And this guy was high producer then. 20, 30 years ago, he ran 7-figure, 8-figure company. I don't even know how big it was, and was a sales rep that consistently won every award. This was not a coping mechanism for him. This was just something he did that he'd learned to take control over the years. I want to talk about the real cost of tolerating all of these things that I've been talking about through here. The real cost of tolerating less than your best is because when you lie to yourself about one thing, this is not important, this is not that big of a deal. When you lie to yourself, it doesn't ever stay just that one thing. You skip doing the thing, whether it's washing the dishes, cleaning your desk, straightening things up, finishing that estimate, whatever it needs to be. I don't know what your life looks like, but you know what it is you're not doing. Then your standards start to drop. You start to accept a lesser version of yourself over and over again. You skip the gym. This new 3-day-a-week workout is crushing me because I'm used to going more than that. But to be consistent, got to go to the gym. If I skip the gym, what happens? I don't feel great that day. Mentally, it kind of messes with me. But if I skip the gym consistently, my body follows suit. Actually, that's reversed. My mind follows suit, then my body follows suit. You avoid those calls. You avoid those phone calls. Well, if you don't make those phone calls, you don't make those sales calls, you don't take those inbound calls to get those leads, you won't have as much money. Every action has a consequence. Every action has a reaction. So if you're distracted at home, because all this other stuff is bothering you because you're not doing what you need to do at home, well, then your relationships start to follow that as well. And you start to appear distracted in your relationships. You start to look like things are happening or not happening in the relationship when there's really nothing more going on than you have lost control of your environment, and it starts to impact every other area of your life. It's not separate problems. It's the same pattern showing up everywhere in your life. Start looking for it. Now, here's the beautiful thing about this is this choice gap doesn't have to continue to exist. You already know what to do, and you've already made the decision. If you haven't, then go back and look at the episode of What We Actually Control and make some decisions, because once you've made those decisions, there's no longer a breakdown point there. This is not where the breakdown occurs. It's at your choices on what you're going to do about the decisions. Your decision would be, I should fix this, or I'm going to fix this. Your choice, I'll do it later. And all too often, this is where our identity starts breaking down, and not in the actual physical reality of what we're doing, but because we already made a choice not to act on our decision before we ever did anything about it. So it literally looks like we didn't do anything about it, even though we made the first 3 steps out of the 5-step process already and just chose not to do anything about it, not to take action on it. But every time you tolerate this, and these are small things, these are not huge issues, but every time you tolerate this, you're sending signals to your brain This is who we are now. This is what we do, because your brain doesn't care. Your brain does not have a dog in this fight. It's simply a machine that implements what you desire and what you want to have implemented. So whenever you send these signals, okay, we'll do it later, we'll do it later, it starts to apply that to every piece of your life. Oh, we'll do that later, we'll do that later. Oh, that's scary. We don't want to do that. Oh, that might cause a problem. We don't want to do that. Whatever it is, tell yourself and you tell your brain, this is who we are now. This is how we handle our decisions. We choose not to implement them. It doesn't happen in 1 second. These choices that we make, they don't happen a moment and then bam, there's some, oh my God, I got struck by lightning and now I'm a loser and a failure. This is not what happens. This happens by a million small things over time. You don't fall apart all at once. It's death by 1,000 cuts. These are the 1,000 bad choices. These are the 1,000 little things that reprogram our brain and therefore reprogram our reality. Now, here's the great thing about this is that exact same scenario that I just spent the last 20 minutes explaining can be flipped and used in your favor because it works either direction. Remember, your brain doesn't care. Your brain just takes input, processes it, and gives you output based on the programming that you've given it. Period. It's the world's largest supercomputer. So you can take control of this. Clean just one thing. Handle that one task immediately that you know needs to be done. Keep one promise that you made to yourself or somebody else. And if you, that one thing will start sending your brain a different signal and it will start saying, wow, we're disciplined. And then you do it again. And it's like, we really are disciplined. And then after a while, your brain starts to get on board and it starts to look for opportunities where you can win and start knocking things out because it likes the way you feel when you do this. You like the way you feel. You like the perception of others about you when you are working in alignment with your decisions, your attention, and your dreams and your goals. This is what makes you disciplined. Again, 1,000 small choices. Because order isn't about aesthetics. It's not about how things look on the outside. It's about control. It's about what you choose to do on your decisions and manifest them in reality through action. That is what order is. Ever known somebody that just they seem to have a place for everything, and when they don't, they're able to reorganize and make it, and their brain works that way? I'm really envious of people like that. Sometimes I have that vision and I can just see where everything's supposed to go. But most of the time, it's a lot of work for me to try and figure out what needs to happen, how things go, and what have you. It's a challenge. So you don't fix your life in big moments. There are big moments that happens, but they're not the times that you fixed your life. They are the results of hundreds of thousands of small choices leading up to them. But you fix your life in what you stop tolerating, specifically what you stop tolerating out of yourself. There's a lot of research and a lot of theory around this, and you'll see different people trying to explain it in different ways. Some people debate about this endlessly. Here's the principle that holds down. This keeps you strong in a world of chaos and in a world of input telling you that you're not. And don't let yourself be derailed because somebody's calling out a critique because they read an article that disagrees with you or disagrees with your position. Or better yet, they didn't read anything at all. They just pretended to, and then they give you their opinion, sometimes in a very aggressive manner. So I'm not telling you to go clean your bedroom. But you know what? If you need to do that to make yourself feel better, go do that. I'm telling you to start focusing on all of those little things that are driving you nuts and insane every single day. And I hope this helps, folks. I hope that you take some of this to heart and that you're able to share this podcast with somebody that needs it. Appreciate the likes, the subscribes, the comments, the interactions. All of that is what the fuel for the fire and what keeps me going. So you should have the button on the bottom. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and do all the things. Follow me on social media too. I've got some different contacts and different posts there. Till next time, love y'all. Peace.